My father left me his vintage car collection. My brother sold them all while I was deployed overseas. I returned from my military deployment to discover my brother had sold all 7 classic cars our father left me in his will. He claims he needed the money for his wedding, but he just put a down payment on a vacation home that costs more than the entire collection. Dad was a master mechanic who spent 40 years building his collection of vintage American muscle cars, 67 Lucen, 69 Camaro, 70 Chevelle, and 4 others, each one restored with his own hands. When he was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, he updated his will, specifically leaving the cars to me because I'd spent weekends in the garage with him since I was 8. These aren't just cars, he told me during our last conversation before my deployment. They're 40 years of Saturday mornings. Take care of them. My brother Mark never showed interest in the cars. He went into finance, moved to the city and called Dad's passion a waste of money. Dad left him the house and investment portfolio with assets worth considerably more than the car collection. The arrangement seemed fair to everyone. 2 months into my overseas deployment, Dad passed away. I couldn't get leave for the funeral. Mark sent a brief email. Dad's gone. I'll handle everything until you are back. Cobbers are safe in the garage. That was the last I heard until I returned 6 months later. When I arrived at Dad's house, now Mark's house, the garage was empty. Not a single car remained. I had to sell them, Mark explained over the phone when I called in shock. The wedding was expensive, and Ben Fowle wanted a honeymoon in Bali. I figured you'd understand since you are always saying material things don't matter. I was speechless. Those cars were just material things. They were Dad's legacy, his passion, the physical embodiment of our relationship. You had no right, I finally managed. Dad left them to me specifically. Well, technically, the will was still in probate, he replied. And as executor, I had to make decisions. Storing those cars was costing money. The garage had been paid off for 20 years. There were no storage costs. I consulted a lawyer who confirmed that as executor, Mark had violated his fiduciary duty. But the cars were gone, sold to private collectors across the country. Tracking them down would take years and more money than I had. 2 weeks later, Mark posted photos on social media of his new vacation property, minus a lakefront cabin with a price tag I immediately recognized as roughly 30% more than what the entire car collection was worth at our cousin's wedding last weekend. Relatives kept asking about the cars, not knowing what had happened. When Mark overheard, he laughed and said, "Oh, she decided to sell them. Too impractical to keep." I corrected him immediately. "No, you sold them without my permission while I was serving overseas, and here is a difference." The table went silent. Our grandmother asked Mark if this was true. His face reddened as he stammered about family helping family and how he'd meant to replace the money eventually. I stood up and placed Dad's garage keys on the table. I don't want anything else to disappear while I'm not looking. Since then, half the family has taken my side, while others insist I should forgive Mark because family comes first. My aunt suggested I was being selfish for not considering that Mark needed a vacation property more than I needed old cars. Last night, I received a text from an unknown number. It was photos of Dad's Tucson, though, the one that meant the most to both of us. The message read, "I bought this car 3 months ago from a guy who seemed suspicious about the sale. After finding your family online, I understand why. If you want it back, it's yours. No charge. Some things should stay in the family. I am picking up the Siston tomorrow. 1 car returned, 6 to go. Nair does the family judge who keeps telling me to just move on. Some betrayals you forgive, others you document, address, and correct one vintage car at a time."